Hi, I'm Joe from Scroy Innovations with another Night Power Sports product. This is the Brute Force Prairie Sure 4 combo. Inside this kit, you'll get some paperwork along with our KEBC Delete kit. This has the hole cover that goes where your KEBC actuator was, the wire harness, and the belt switch bypass. In addition to that, you have your hand lever with mounting hardware, which goes, of course, with the Sure 4 manual actuator. Here we have the lid, the cable, and the plug that goes where you remove your four-wheel drive actuator from. Okay, so now we're going to start the installation process. First step is going to be taking some things off of your ATV. First, we can pop the seat off. That comes off with this lever here. Put that off to the side. Now we come over here. We're going to take the front rack off, remove the 4 screws that hold this on. And take the rack off. Remove these uprights that were underneath the rack. Next, we're going to remove this panel, unscrew this front screw here, and then there's one here and another one back here on the other side of the gauges. As you're removing this, your 12-volt outlet will be connected, so unplug this as you take this off, set this off to the side. Next, we'll remove the side holders. There are a bunch of screws that hold this in. Remove all of the screws that are holding this panel on. On this side, you will also have to remove the nut on your key. And on this side, you will have to open up the storage compartment, and there are a few screws inside here that you'll have to remove in order to get this panel to come off. Remove these two. Set them off to the side. Next, we are going to remove the screws that hold the footwell to the front fender and the side fender. So all of the screws here that hold it on to the front fender, along with these screws that hold the side fender to the front fender, along with back here, this one screw and this one screw, and it's identical on the other side also. Remove all of those pieces. So now we can take this fender off. It does go underneath your airbox, so you may want to remove your airbox if it's tight. Actually, that didn't help. You don't need to because it's underneath the side of it there. So you can leave this on. And then take this off. Oh, you do need to remove your shift knob in order to get the side fender to come out. This just unscrews. Pop this side fender off. And again, that's identical on the other side. Pop this side fender off. Now, underneath on some, you will have a fender like this. This is mounted. This is mounted on the inside here. When you removed the 2 screws that held the 2 fenders together, you will have removed them from here, and then it's held on with push fasteners up here, over here, and one down there. Remove those push fasteners and take this fender off, and this is on both sides. You'll have to do that. Once all of that is removed, we need to undo the headlight. One more step down here. There's a screw that holds the headlight in right here. Then you'll need to follow the wire from your headlight and disconnect it. Pop this connector out like that. And then there is a clip. Let me show you this clip. There's a clip like this that is in between your headlight and your front bumper right here. So you're going to need something like a long screwdriver is what I used to get in there, get behind this clip, and pry it out, pop this clip off, and that'll be everything so that your headlight is no longer connected. So now everything is disconnected and we can remove the entire front fender here, right? So this one has a horn installed from our control switches box. That's what's getting snagged right there. Oh, I didn't disconnect the horn. Go. This headlight was still plugged in. Okay. All right, there we go. Now this fender's off. So now we have access to pretty much everything we need. Next, we're going to install the KEBC Delete wiring harness. This is your four-wheel drive control box. On 2010 and newer models, this is the location of it on the front end. 2009 and older, it's located underneath your seat. Watch our other installation video for that. So this just pulls up. The rubber here is just held on by those tabs. There's no clips or anything. Next, you're going to push down here and try to hold this entire part with your hand so you're not pulling on the wires. So I'm going to wiggle it like that and get that out. Now this yellow part that came, you can see started to come out, it's supposed to be in the wire harness side. Sometimes that yellow will end up in here. You would have to take it out and put it back in this side here like that. That's how this should look when you remove it. Now you could take the wire harness. You have to first remove this sticker. The sticker is on here to keep the metal tabs in during transit, but the sticker has to come off so that those three slots are exposed. Now you can take this side of the KEBC Delete wire harness and push it into your four-wheel drive control box. It is a very tight fit, but if you wiggle it back and forth, you'll get it all the way in and hear that clip make that clip noise. On this side, you just simply push it in also until it goes all the way in and clips, just like that. Now you'll have to make a little bit of room as you're pushing it back in, but you should be able to get it all the way back and on the tabs, just like that. And that's what it'll look like. Take the relay and tuck this in somewhere. Use a zip tie, cable ties, something to hold it tight. And that's the wire harness installed. Next, we're going to install the hole cover kit and the belt switch bypass kit. First step is going to be with an 8mm to remove your KEBC actuator. It's held on with these three screws here. Once these three screws are loosened, you can pull your KEBC actuator off. I have to cut that zip tie. Okay. And here, you're going to disconnect your KEBC actuator, lift up on this tab here as you pull these two apart. Like that. This part stays on there, and definitely want to clean that up before we put the hole cover on. So we have this cleaned up. This plate stays on here, and there is a O-ring underneath this that didn't move, so I'm just leaving that on there. The fork that's inside the belt cover, on this vehicle there was nothing wrong with it, just the actuator was broken. So we're going to leave that in there. If there's any noise coming from inside here, you're going to want to take your whole belt housing off and remove that fork from the inside. For now we're good, so we are going to take the pull cover, the O-ring, and place this right on here. The supplied screws go in to hold this in. The button head screw comes with the kit, goes in this hole here. Okay, next we are going to install the belt switch bypass. This is your belt switch. Follow the wire that comes from it and disconnect the connector like this. Then take the belt switch bypass that came with your kit and unplug this side, plug this side into here, and plug this connector into here. Now you can take these, oh, we have one more for this. This also comes with your KBC delete kit. Plug this connector into here. Now we can take these, use some wire ties, tie them up out of the way. Be careful not to get onto anything that's hot or moving. Now we're ready to install the Sure 4. The first step is to remove this panel. There are 4 Phillips head screws holding this in. So remove those 4 screws and take this panel off. Next, we're going to remove the 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive rocker switch. That's held on by 3 Phillips head screws. Be careful not to lose this rubber part that can fall out of your throttle housing as you're taking it off. You're going to follow this wire down and disconnect it now. This comes all the way down from there, and it is this connector right here. Pop this out like that. Now we can remove the 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive rocker switch like that. Now we are going to install the hand lever. This replaces your rocker switch. So on the inside here, remove the 3 screws that hold the rocker switch and wiring in the housing. Push the rocker switch out. The wiring comes out. That little grommet just pops out there. Next, we can take the mounting hardware, remove these screws that came installed. This goes inside your housing, and this will clamp down on top. If you go handlebars deep underwater or ride in a lot of rain, you can put some RTV sealant on here now in order to seal that up, then reinstall these screws. Like this. And this will go on here, but first we will put this back on the ATV. Now we're going to put this back on this using the 3 screws we removed earlier. We can put our hand lever on, get this in any orientation that you like, here, up here, and tighten this down. The wire that comes from here, you're going to route down same way that your wire was routed before, and plug this back in where you unplugged your rocker switch from earlier. Was this blue connector here. We disconnected it from before. Now we'll put this back in that place, like that. So we're almost ready to run the cable and install the Shore 4 now, but diff oil is going to leak out from where the actuator is on the differential. So the first thing we're going to do is drain the front differential oil. So just put the drain plug back in. We're going to have to take the tire off. So first I'm going to lift it up. Okay, now we can take this wheel off. So now we're going to route the cable. We're going to start from up here and come down. I'm going to stay on that side of the steering shaft in order to get a nice sweep. So I'm threading it through the hole where the steering shaft goes, but I'm on that side of the steering shaft. I'm going to have to go to the other side in order to get it down and push it over. So coming down on this side right here, and then I'm going to head out that side. Now that it's down that far, I can move back over to here and actually want to come up and go on top of the frame rail here so that it's away from any moving parts. It's going to go on the inside of this tube here. This is your electronic four-wheel drive actuator that we're about to remove, and so this cable is going to sit right around there. You want to make sure that there's no sharp bends. It's very smooth and sweeping all the way up. Come on this side here, go through here, bring it up to the cable. Looks like we can go through this one also to keep it nice and secure. This, although it has threads on it, does not screw into here. This cable is used for a different product. That's why there's threads on it. So just line up those two slots there, pull back on the lever, and there's a hole here that the ball from the cable will slide into, just like that. Get this in here, and that cable will go there. Push down this extra slack, and again, make sure that there's no sharp bends. Keep everything smooth and sweeping all the way down to where we just were. So now this is installed. You want to tighten this adjuster all the way in. Keep that tightened tight against here. You're never going to use that adjuster in order to adjust the Shore 4. You're going to use the heavy duty adjuster that is on the cable. Always keep this fully screwed in. Never use that to make an adjustment. Now we're ready to install the Shore 4 manual actuator. First, we'll remove the electronic actuator. It's held on with these three 8mm screws. So actually, this bracket also has to be removed, which will be an additional 2 8mm screws. Okay, and the actuator will come out just like that. And we're going to follow the wiring up and find where it goes over to here. It's plugged in. Lift up on that tab, just like the other connectors. Lift up on this tab and pull this out. Remove this wiring. Okay, four-wheel drive actuator, electronic one, is removed. So now we can install manual actuator. This is the latest design, which allows you to screw in the cable into this part here. Also has this slotted design, which will help with some other things, and a raised part here to get a better seal with the O-ring. So you can remove the one nut on the cable, and then you're going to screw the actuator onto the cable. Get it all the way on so that at least some threads are coming out, just like that. And then later we can tighten that nut against it with that O-ring to seal it. This O-ring was on the electronic actuator. We're going to put the new one on that came with the kit. Located in the parts bag with the lid. This O-ring here. Make sure the surface is clean. Put the O-ring on the actuator. So the collar should be facing down, which would be in this direction. You see it rotates. Keep it in this downward direction as you're installing this. The sleeve inside here towards the front is two-wheel drive. If you push your finger in there and push it to the back, that's four-wheel drive. So you want it kind of towards the front, maybe even a little centered right now as you install this. So you're going to bring the actuator in, get that collar to go into the gear in there. And then it doesn't really want to sit in. It has to get dropped in on an angle. So I'm going to tilt the short floor down so that the lower bolt hole is touching the differential. Then wiggle it around a little bit of pushing in as you're moving it, and you'll get it to sit in, pop in just like that. So now you can take the 3 screws that came with the kit and mount the actuator to the differential. Okay. Now we have the actuator installed. We're going to make the adjustments. Pull this sleeve off of the adjuster. That. Shifting to two-wheel drive, we'll get more slack out of the cable. And now we can start to make the adjustment here. Since there's too much slack here when I'm in two-wheel drive, going to unscrew this adjuster. Make sure that the lever is all the way in the two-wheel drive position. And you'll get this to start to get tight. The best way to adjust it is to shift into four-wheel drive. If you start to go to four-wheel drive and it won't go all the way in, that's because the gears in the differential aren't lined up. Just rotate your wheels a little bit. I just rotated the hub by hand just a little bit, and that got the gears to line up, and it slid into four-wheel drive. So this is all the way in four-wheel drive. I know that because I can't move it any further. You actually want just a little bit of slack there. So I'm going to screw this adjuster down just a little bit so that there's just that little bit of play in four-wheel drive. That's too much. That's perfect. So that's four-wheel drive. Back to two-wheel drive. You see it goes all the way to the two-wheel drive position. Back to four-wheel drive. It's locked in there. So that's perfect. I'm going to pull this rubber cover back down over top of the adjuster. Get that rubber adjuster over there, like that. Now the lock nut can go up. I'm going to tighten, get 2 wrenches and tighten the lock nut against the adjuster. And then the same here. I'm going to tighten this lock nut against the housing. And then I'm going to put some cable ties around the cable so that it holds it nice against the frame and in these positions that it's in right now. And then we'll test it one more time to make sure that nothing has moved after we finished buttoning up the install there. So we tightened those nuts and used some cable ties to secure everything. Now we're ready to install the lid. The O-ring that comes with the lid sits in this groove. Just pop this in like that. Then take the lid, put it on the actuator, tighten down the 4 screws. Now we can connect the orange wire that comes from the tank lever. This gets plugged into where the electronic actuator was plugged into. Just pop this in here, like that, put that in. And as you can see, this wiring is really jammed up in there. There wasn't much slack. So what I did was I pulled this push rivet out from up here and slid the orange wire around that piece of plastic over to this side here. So now there is plenty of slack. It was a little tight the other way. You don't want any of your wires to be too tight. You can just move that over to there instead of running it down the steering column to give yourself plenty of slack. So now we have everything set up. So before we put everything back together, just make sure you turn your handlebars lock to lock and make sure that the wire from your lever and the cable isn't getting caught or kinked and restricting your movement there. Also, you can turn the key on and check your display lights now. Shift it into 4-wheel drive, lock the lever in, see that works good there. Back to 2-wheel drive, and that works perfect there. So we're good to go and ready to put it all back together. Putting the plastics on is just the reverse of what you did when you took them off. So first we're going to put this panel on. I have the horn on this, so I got to spread it a little bit. Goes behind the fender like this on both sides. Okay, you can line up these holes where your rack goes in order to make sure that everything's lined up properly. Make sure you put your key through here. It'll get more difficult to get to this as you put more plastics on. Okay. Now everything looks lined up. So now we can put the side panels on next. So this one goes behind the footwell. There. Over here goes over your shifter and under your airbox. Okay. Okay. And then the side panel on the other side. Same thing. Next, we're going to install these screws between these two fenders. One goes here, and the same on the other side. Now, we can install these plastics here. This one has the key, so be careful not to push it out. Like that. And screw this cover on, this part on top of the switch. On the other side, the other plastic, we'll put this on now. And then we can install all the screws that hold both of these on all around, and don't forget the few inside this plastic. So put those in now. So you can get all the screws in on these black plastics up here, and you can start to put the screws in on the fenders, but don't put these two screws in yet between these two fenders, because those screws also hold this mudguard on. This goes back under here, and same on the other side with the other mudguard. This will go in this position right here. The two screws that go through the fender will hold it on there, and then the push rivets that you pulled out before will hold one spot in the bottom and two on top. Next, we can finish up under here. This connector goes to the horn that's connected to the smart control housing switch. The wire here from your headlight, I'm going to go over this bar, connect this back to where it was plugged in before. Has this little part here to secure the wire so it doesn't move around a lot. Then you have the clip and the screw. The clip goes on right here, just like that, and the screw goes in right here to the headlight. Do the same thing on the other side. Next, we'll install this panel. Be sure to reconnect your 12-volt outlet. Slide this over, and then install these 3 screws here, here, and here. Now we can put this on. You install this with 4 screws, front, 2 up here, and on the sides here. Screw that back in. We can put the shift knob on. This just screws in. Screw that all the way down. Like that. Now we can put the front rack on. The taller uprights go towards the front, the shorter ones towards the back. The longer screw will be used on the front and the shorter one on the back. Now we can put the wheels back on. Same on the other side. So now I can drop it down off of the jack, and then I'm going to torque the front lug nuts, put the seat on, and we'll be done. Now we're all done. Going to test it out one more time now that all the plastics are on here. See, we're in two-wheel drive. Display shows two-wheel drive. Shift into four-wheel drive. You can see the display shows four-wheel drive when we're locked in four-wheel drive there. Back to two-wheel drive. Display shows two-wheel drive. Let's go ride and find some lug.